Hello and welcome to another episode of Sonic Touch, the show dedicated to making music on touch devices. I think we're at show
27!
Indeed we are. I'm Nick Batt, editor of SonicState.com.
And I'm Gaz Williams, a musician and a producer.
This week we're going to take a look at something that certainly was hot off the press when recorded. It'll be like yesterday's news next week, if you like.
Yeah.
What is it we're looking at, Gaz?
We're going to look at the brand new amp modeler from Positive Grid. Now, you might know Positive Grid because they'd released the fabulous Jamup, which is like a complete suite of guitar, like effects modeling, amp modeling. There's a looper and a
sort of standard guitarist fare that we're seeing a lot of other manufacturers do as well.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. But what they've done here with Bias is they've made a dedicated amp modeler, and they're claiming that this is the greatest amp modeler on any platform, not just iOS. Big claim. That
is a big claim. And of course, if you're going to be playing guitar into your iPad, really you're going to want some kind of dedicated hardware. So we've got a couple of things just to mention as we go through, and you'll see what we ended up using. So first of all, we've got the Sonic port. This is from line 6, if I hold it here. It's a nice form factor. It's got GuitarJack input, stereo output on a 1/4-inch jack, also headphone output, and also a stereo input. So it's got quite a lot of connectivity. It also comes with 2 leads. The first lead we've got is a standard lightning connector, but it also comes supplied with a 30-pin connector as well, which is just a nice touch. And both of these fit into the back, so you can connect it up to any generation iPad. Comes with a free mobile pod, I think it is, which is your sort of normal line 6 fare. So you get the amp modelling, you get the playback, you get the
effects.
So we gave this a try with Bias. It hooked up and worked actually extremely well and sounded fine, didn't it? The only thing that we did find that there was a round trip latency that basically when we monitored out of the unit itself, there was a kind of delay compared to coming out of just the headphones of the iPad, right?
Yeah, which was not what we were expecting.
So we ended up using this as the input and coming out of the headphone socket of the iPad, which didn't sound as good, but the latency seemed lower, which is kind of curious and not perhaps what you hope for, but still worth a look. I think it's £79, and it's a nice form factor. The thing I like about this is it sits on the desk, and it's got a good place to put basically the jacks and the inputs and the outputs, and it just sort of feels as a form factor kind of certainly quite pleasant.
Agreed.
The other thing we looked at was the Sonoma Wireworks GuitarJack 2, which is GuitarJack 2 USB, and that replaces the original form factor with this one, which has basically got a USB connection. It's like a micro USB instead. You've still got the same guitar input, headphone output, and also a microphone input, and works with the same software. Again, very slight increase in latency to the standard 30-pin mode, which is the original GuitarJack 2, which features a 30-pin connector.
Should mention with the GuitarJack that the the microphone input there is actually also will take a stereo input as well.
It did sound really, really nice. That's the thing. In fact, who was it? There's a special designer.
Yeah, that's Joe Bryan who worked on it. He also worked with Universal Audio on the 2192 converter.
So really tasty, and I mean, and you can hear the quality of that. And that's the thing that Sonoma have always said, isn't it? It's got really nice I/O and converters, and we can concur that very fact.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the
Bias
software. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll open Bias and we'll have a look at it now. So, as I mentioned, this is an amp modeler. It's an amp modeler without it, so there's no effect, so it's just purely dedicated to amp modeling. But it goes a lot deeper in terms of the tweakability than we've seen so far on any iPad app, but pretty much more than any computer simulation as well. Okay, so from the front page, we can choose like a general clean, glassy blues crunch, and I'd say, when we jump into it, it'll go in and it'll give us a selection of amplifiers.
Okay, so that's sort of sub-presets.
Sub-presets, yeah. And, let's go high gain, metal, acoustic, and also, which is of interest to me, bass amp models as well. So if we went into there, for instance, we can see, Ampeg and Gallien-Kruger, Orange, etc. Various things. Okay, now why this is quite an interesting thing is, so at the moment we're looking at a blackface vibro like a Fender amp. There's a little cog on there. If we touch the little cog, we go into the deeper editing now, and we can see that we've got various elements of an amplifier. Now, we've not seen this kind of thing. We might have seen some preamp, power amp stuff before, but we can go deeper into this. We can even play around with the transformer and. But say we looked at the preamp, for instance, we can swap out the valves, or tubes maybe, I should say.
Tubes.
Tubes.
I think they say.
And so they've modelled all the different types of tubes that you might find. So if we were to touch on there, for instance, we've got like 3 sort of preamp tubes, and there's the follower tube, another 3 choices there. Similarly, when we go into the power amp, it gives us other extra sort of choices of tubes, but also look, we can adjust the bias of like the preamp, the power amp and the preamp, hence the name. There's we can change the tone stack, which is essentially what the tone controls are going to be on it. We've also got like a pre-EQ and a post-EQ, which we can sort of move around, which is a quite 8-band. Wow,
so that's like even more shaping that we can do there.
Unbelievable amount of shaping, and of course, you know, if we went into the preamp, look, we've got a pre-tone control and a post-tone control of just the preamp.
Wow.
So, you know, let's look at the transformer now. So in the transformer, we've got, you can almost see the transformer as a form of compression in a way. That's how it seems to affect the sound. If we went into the cab model, you know, we can sort of move this mic around, but we can also, interestingly, adjust the distance and the position there. And we've got various cab models that we can choose
so that's sort of standard stuff, but this level of detail in the electronics is really quite unusual.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so I think what we'll do in a minute, we'll plug a guitar in, and if you just start tweaking, we'll see what some of these controls actually do.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming that this will be of interest to people who really know about the electronic side of things.
Tube heads.
But we don't know a lot about that, so let's see what happens if you just tweak away.
Okay.
What's this guitar, Nick?
It's a PV Jerry Donahue, famous telly player.
Yeah.
But it's got really fancy electronics, so you can switch it to sound like Strat, obviously a telly, and also I think like SG kind of stuff. But it's done in electronics, not in DSP. So it's very nice sounding pickup switches.
Okay, before we start tweaking it, let's just jump back to this page and let's just go through, you choose a few different models then.
Okay, so let's start with the blues.
Blues. So you select the amp now.
American, but let's Tweed Lux. Noise gate there, might switch that off. So like that.
It's playing in the power amp settings there. So
subtle.
The bias will make a big difference.
Yeah. I'm going to play with the transformer. Wow. Just hold on a sec. This is actually really interesting. I mean, this section here, the rectifier tube type and the release and compression really started to shape the sound. I mean, it's a sort of quite crazy level of technicality. I mean, I guess if you were maybe an amp servicing guy, this would be heaven.
But as we were playing around with it then, we were hearing an enormous range of tones from just this one amp. So
if I come back out. Wow, that's gnarly.
It's got nasty now.
Gnarly and horrible. Let's try another one. If I come back here and maybe come out to a mini duo reverb. If I come back out again, let's try something. Okay, you ready for a bit of metal?
Yeah. So the gain levels are all over the place with these comparisons.
So what's it actually like to play? I mean, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun there. I mean, how does it feel in terms of responsivity and what have you? I can hear a little bit. There's a little bit of latency, but as we said when we were testing out,
yeah,
it's the lowest we found with the Sonoma Wireworks GuitarJack 2 coming out of the headphones on the 30-pin connector.
It feels pretty good though. I mean, I think when I was doing it with headphones on, that helps a little bit because that
Switch the noise gate on there.
So that, you know, with headphones on, that kind of helps a little bit because you're not hearing as much acoustic noise coming through. But to be honest, it's pretty good. And what I've tend to find with these minimal latency things, as soon as you just kind of
start to adjust
to it, you do, you know, it's certainly not too much that it makes it like unpleasant.
And we're listening to this on an iPad Air, which obviously is the top of the heap when it comes to, you know, have you tried it on your 2?
No, not this one yet.
I'm guessing it's using a reasonable amount of CPU.
I would have thought so. It is. It does say that the minimum spec is an iPad 2. But what I think, where it starts to become quite interesting is that it does integrate quite well in a few different ways. One way is that it integrates with Positive Grid's previous release, Jamup Pro. If we look here, there's a little icon, and that's the Jamup icon. So if we touch that, it takes us through to Jamup. Okay. So it gives us all the functionality of Jamup, all the plugins, but it's actually brought the amplifier that we're...
Woo!
I think what's going on there. But so it's quite nice. We can actually import our amps.
Right, so you get a sound we like and then kind of go,
bring it in.
Get serious about it now.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know... And this gives us, you know, loads and loads of...
You can, just what I thought we needed, actually, a bit more drive and distortion. Easy, Tiger. That's kind of cool. Can you? But presume that's sort of like, it brings the interface in. You can't bring that through. The only other way you could do it would maybe InterApp audio or via audio bus.
Exactly. So that's the second route is that it does support audio bus and the brand new iOS 7 specific InterApp audio. Which
that's interesting because there aren't that many apps that support that yet. So
no, but it's increasing now. We can actually show what might be a shortcoming of iOS 7 with this, but because if we were to open up, for instance, the let's just close them for a moment, and let's open up Aurea.
Right, we looked at Aurea in I forget which episode it was, but worth a check. I think we were discovering how underpowered an iPad was for this kind of work. Whereas now with the iPad Air, I guess Aurea is really coming into its own.
Aurea is really coming into its own. I mean, since I've been using it on the iPad Air, it really is quite a fabulous piece of software. There's this new icon strip which lets you get at editing functions.
Yeah, I mean that makes a load of sense because one of our biggest criticisms was it was using the kind of old school sitting in front of a computer paradigm.
Yes.
On a touchscreen device, which just doesn't work as a direct translation.
What we can see now, there's these little icons. They might not come out because they're quite, you know, which show if you touch there to drag, touch there for fades, and fantastically touch there. We've got clip
gain.
Something which is
close to your heart.
Very close to my heart. And also, you know, if we were to go a double tap and drag, we can take a section.
Right, they've obviously done some very smart work.
Yeah, like that. And then, you know, we can just adjust, you know, move little sections
Looks
around.
more responsive as well on the iPad Air. Anyway, so how does Bias integrate with this then, with InterApp audio, right?
Yeah, great. So if we open up the effects here, we'd look in here, and then we'd go to load it. But what I've discovered is this can be a very kind of hit and miss process. The best way to do it, I've found so far, is to load up Bias on its own first. Now I'm going to jump back to Aurea, and now I'm going to select Bias as a, and now you can see the Bias logo has appeared on there. That's the
InterApp audio of Bias, and some apps show that differently, don't they? So for instance, iMini, Aurea iMini, and GarageBand. In iMini, you get a little transport control, you know. So it depends on the. You know, there's a bit of leeway on that. Right?
Yes. So now if I so now I'm in. If I was to try and do it in any other way, I probably wouldn't get the audio. So it's a bit fussy. It's a bit finicky. So I'm not sure at the moment if that's an iOS 7 thing or if it's an Aurea thing or you know.
Yeah, it's impossible to know.
Impossible.
They'd all blame each other. I have no doubt.
I'm sure. Okay, so I'm in. Let's just go into record mode and. Okay. Right,
so you recorded that.
Yeah, let's have a listen. Oh,
take it out of record. That sounds like it's been reamped to me.
I think you're right. Let's have a look here. Right, okay. So it's printed with the effect on. So if we knock that off and then play it, then we'll have. Okay.
So that's how nature intended it. But so that means you could reamp stuff as well, right? Surely.
You can. And let's do this in another way now. Let's just delete that thing there and create another track. Okay, so we'll go add another track, another mono track. And because we've only got the single mono interface going on here.
So we'll record both of them.
Yes.
And then we want to make sure that that's
Let's turn that back on.
Okay. So we're hearing, so now we can
take the volume of that one down. Just for...
okay. And then record.
Record.
Headbang. Okay, we'll stop that. And we can see there that we've got an affected version and a dry version. So if we come out of there and come out of there.
Let's mute the dry. Let's mute the affected one. And
oops, sorry.
Yeah, and play that now.
Play that. And hold on, why is that not playing?
Let's have a look. Oh, because we took the fader down. We took the fader down. Let's take that up, and then we'll have the clean, the DI sound going on there. Bit clippy as well, actually.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that I must say. You know, as we've been fiddling around and trying to I mean, I've got small hands, and I'm having trouble hitting some of those buttons. It's still a very densely populated thing, and certainly when you get the plugin menu dropping down, it's very easy to roll onto the wrong thing. And so yeah, that's just by the by. But what's amazing that now we could, if we wanted, we could reamp this one by dropping that plugin in. Yes, I mean, that's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah. So I mean, in fact, I think just for speed of use, if I touch onto that, and I'll just drag it onto that track where we've already got one set up already. Let's unmute it and. Yeah, let's play that now. So this is cool now. Let's just set it up. Let's just put a loop. We'll just put any old loop in for the moment. Set that off. And let's go to Bias.
Well, in fact, why don't we do this? We'll just change the amp and change. So so we can reamp. Yeah.
So I think that's a Roland Darcy.
Okay. So you can start. I mean, it's starting to approach the same paradigm that we're used to in our DAWs. But again, you know, there's this. Oh, if it was just it's nearly. You know.
It's pretty good though. It's pretty good. And what we can certainly do is, by doing that method anyway, is start to delve in with bias and adjusting, and it becomes quite good fun then, because you know, you've got your audio recorded. So
there are no effects on bias.
No.
Is there any MIDI control of any of the parameters or any of that sort of thing?
Not that I'm aware of. I think, as I say, I think it really is very much about just getting those guitar sounds in when when you're done jumping it across into. I believe that you can bring MIDI in on, this is in Jamup Pro.
Right, okay.
So
there's control assignments.
Control assignments, exactly. Everything is, yes.
Some effect.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there's actually amp controls in there, but yeah. Okay.
Not probably the full depth of them, no.
No.
Just only what is on the panel.
So we're talking really just sort of almost sort of macro tweaking of an amp model, and I'm just from watching you play and listening to the sounds coming out, it really does feel like there's actually quite a lot of fun element. It's responsive.
Yeah, it's probably the most fun I've had with an amp model on an iOS platform. Right. And in fact, I would possibly go out on a limb to say I think it's maybe the best sounding amp simulator I've used per se, and that's up against some big heavyweights on the computer.
That is impressive.
I've just been in it for a while now, so I've been playing around with it and I've been really enjoying it. And although I'm not an amp expert and I don't really know what I'm doing, as I'm playing around with the controls, it's making a big difference to the tone. Now, I've been playing bass into it as well, and I've been finding that quite pleasing, because it's quite hard to get a bass amp model somehow to get it satisfying, and it did pretty good. It did pretty good. So I think it's definitely a quality bit of software, and you just have to say, what a beautiful interface, though, huh?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a really lovely interface? It's just, you know, it's just.
I'm still amazed at how much the transformer made a difference to the sound. It's just astonishing, really.
Yeah.
So all these people who go on and on about valves and windings and stuff, they're actually not just having a laugh. There is some truth in it.
Yeah. So, you know, this is a great fun exploratory tonal adventure, and you know, there's nothing else comparable to it, as I mentioned, certainly on the iPad. You mentioned when we were talking about this earlier about the Kemper
profiling app, yeah, which is that's the sort of granddaddy, or that's the big daddy of modelling.
Yes,
because you can profile your own setups, and that's a really different thing, you know.
But in terms of ease of use and attractive interface, this is really, you know,
right. What does it cost?
This is £13.99, so that's about $20.
Okay, it's no in-app purchases, you just get it and that's it at the moment, right?
That's right. If Jamup Pro, on the other hand, you can get like a free version of it, and then you can pay for, there's in-app purchases, or you can get that Jamup Pro, and there's still in-app purchases available there. So there's loads and loads of like effects that you can get for it, and bundles as well. So, but Bias, yeah, is a self-contained amplifier modelling app.
What would be great is one day if you could get this and you could just feed it into some kind of DSP pedal, so you could just, without having to take your iPad and put it on the floor, that would be the answer, wouldn't it? But yeah, one day.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
So we're pretty much at an end of this review, this guitar special. If you want to find out more, you can get the Sonoma Wireworks GuitarJack 2. That's around about 109 to 129. We've seen that online. The Line 6, which is under here somewhere. No, it's not. It's over here. The Line 6 Sonic port is around about £69, around about 70 quid UK. Other prices will apply. So basically, and also,
and don't forget, this is my favourite little one. Is the Apogee Jam. That's £75, about $99. In fact, there's a brand new Apogee Jam just come out. It's the Apogee Jam 96K, so it does 96K audio. But
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, there's a plethora of guitar. I mean, the thing is about using a specialised guitar input for any of these things is it will give you a better sound because the impedances are matched and you've got, you know, the inputs are all there. So, thank you very much for watching. As ever, please do leave your comments below. We do thrive on them, perhaps.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes, you know, we'll take offence, but that's fine. In equal measure, it's fine if you can get your way through the terrible YouTube commenting system. Anyway. You can leave them on the site too. I'm Nick Batt.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
I'm Gaz Williams.
You've been watching Sonic Touch 27.
Yes.